Okay, there we go. Got it. Everybody. Hey, folks. Good morning. Here we are. Another Saturday Sentiments. Let's listen to some fun stuff on Gospel Jazz Radio, as always. If you have not checked it out, definitely check out the Gospel Jazz station on the Jazz Radio Network. Good morning, Sister Barbara. Thanks for being here. How you doing? Good to see you. Yeah. So we're just kind of riding the wave from yesterday. Had a really nice Friday night inspiration last night, and we did some music from Black History Month, and that's always a really special month for me. I had some new music that I did, and if you haven't checked it out, I hope that y'all can check it out. And as usual, I got my mugs. Today, this is a little musical mug that someone gave me as a gift some years ago. What's really cool is this handle. It's like made in the shape of a piano keyboard. So I really like that. Dr. Ruby Wilson. Good morning. Thank you so much. It's great to see you. Yes, that's Dr. Ruby Wilson, pastor of the great Safe Haven United Church of Christ in New York City. We have a few things to talk about today. First, let me just make sure that everybody knows my topic today is on becoming a leader. And that's something that a lot of folks aspire to do, but it's not so easy to do. Thank you. But before I get into that, I have a couple of little things I want to share with y'all. Oh, okay. Sounds good. That's right. This morning, I found out that I am going to be, well, actually, it's already in there. There was a post about a press release about my song "By and By" that was posted in the Bell Report by Minister Sheila Bell, otherwise known as the Bell. She is, pretty much the go-to music industry giant here in the Richmond area. She's on the radio. She's got a print broadcast that she does. She's preaching all over the place, public speaking. She's doing all kinds of stuff. And it was talking about By and By and how, that this particular month I'm featuring that song. And you all know, if you've been watching, you've been seeing that song and hearing my version of it all month long. So I'm going to do, thank you, I'm going to do some more about that in a little bit. But I also found out this morning that my video for Because He Lives that I did, the actual conference was the Hampton Ministers Conference back in 2013. And I put the video up, I think maybe the next year, because I didn't get the video right away. But that video has just surpassed 20,000 views. That's the only video I have so far that's up there. But yeah, and it must have just happened this week because, it was hovering in the 19 area. But, I guess maybe the more stuff that I do online, people just Google me and they see, wow, it's got 19,000 views. Let me see what's up with it. And then they really like it. And then they watch it and they share it. People have shared it on their playlists and so on. And so, it's just very exciting. And I just praise God because that whole experience, every time somebody asks me about it, I say, listen, that was just a God moment. The Lord just wanted to do something in the room. And I just happened to be available. That's all that is. But it was a really, really exciting moment. So if you get a chance and you haven't seen it already, Go check that out. Because He Lives. And it's right there on my YouTube channel, which is Jazz in the Spirit Video, or youtube.com/Jazz in the Spirit Video. So let me get to what I want to do about by and by today, and then I'll get into my topic. All right, so, oh, wait a minute, one more thing. I'm sorry. Tomorrow, I'm going to be a special guest at Sacred Heart Catholic Church for Black History Month. I've been doing it, it's hard to believe, 6 years now. But they keep calling me back. So tomorrow I'm actually going to be doing my version of By and By in the morning mass, which is awesome. So that's a lot really fun time. So I'm going to be doing that at 8:30 in the morning, and then come back home to do our online broadcast for Fourth Baptist, which is my church. So it's going to be a full day, but as long as I get sleep, I'll be good. So today, I want to talk about By and By again, because there was a version. I told y'all this was a song that really started to speak to me when I was going through my stuff. I was 17 years old, and By and By is not a song you would typically think of a 17-year-old kind of really getting into. It's a very old song, 1905, and it's one of those great hymns of the church that you often associate with older people, but I'm telling you, it really, really spoke to me at that time in my life, and it's been one of my favorite songs ever since. But I told y'all I did about 3 arrangements of it, but I'm going to share a little bit of the version that I did. This was, I guess, arrangement number 1 or maybe number 2, but it was for a male chorus, well, kind of like a men's ensemble. So just think of those groups like Commissioned and the Wine-Ins and those kinds of things, where they have like some guys singing in falsetto and some singing in chest and vol, that kind of stuff. So it's just me, but I'm going to just give you a little bit of it. All right, let me see. I think that's the key. So it was just like, by and by, when the morning comes, all the saints of God are gathered home. We'll tell the story, how we've overcome, for we'll understand it better by and by. Right, so by and by, when the morning comes, all the saints of God are gathered home. We'll tell the story, how we've overcome, for we'll understand it better by and by. By and by, oh, by and by, and so on. And then we had a little vamp that was like, we'll understand it better by and by. God leads our way with His all-seeing eye. Something else. We'll understand it better. Something like that. So at some point, I never recorded that version. I think I taught it to a group back in, I'm talking about the 90s, maybe late 80s, somewhere in there. It was a minute ago. but at some point I want to do that. And then, of course, I got to give you, hey, good morning, Dr. Will. How you doing, sir? I got to give you the version that, that I've been talking about all month. I never get tired of it. It's a really fun song. So check this out. Morning, Tanya. And like I said, this is on the Jazz in the Spirit CD. That's right. Let it play a little bit. Oh yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, it's on my album, Jazz in the Spirit, and I hope that you all will support. Thank you so much, Dr. Ruby. I really appreciate it. Um, and yes, brother Pete, we really it was one of my saxophone students in New York, and a member of Safe Haven. He really liked playing that song, and I used to really get a kick out of hearing him do it because you know, it's one thing for people to play other people's songs and stuff, but when someone really gets into one of yours, it means a lot. So I really appreciate it, and I definitely miss those days, being in town and be able to do the lessons and stuff. But so um, so let me go ahead and get to my text, if you will. I remember one of my former pastors, the legendary Dr. Gardner C. Taylor. He had a very immaculate way of saying things, and when he was getting to his sermon, he said, lest this frail old vessel fail to reach deep water, let me hasten out of port, which meant let him get to his text. But he just had an incredible way of saying things, and I really am grateful for the opportunity to have, learned from him and, grown up around, a great man like that. So today, what I want to talk about is being a leader, and actually I changed it to becoming a leader, because as leaders, I think it's important that we always remain in the process of becoming, because I think if we ever really settle and we stop and we were like, okay, I've made it, then that can be kind of like the beginning of the end. So I like to call it becoming a leader, because we're always evolving, hopefully always learning, etc. um, you know how do we learn to be someone that people will follow? um, you know and I remember that, also at Concord, the current pastor, Dr. Simpson, also a wonderful preacher and a great man. um, I remember when he was, trying to help the church come up with a mission statement or vision statement. Went through a lot of different iterations, but one of the ones that, it didn't last that long, but, I understood what he was talking about. There were kind of like four pillars. There was leadership, there was, you know, um, thinking about the future, different things. But one of the ones that stuck with me is he said, we are determined to be a leader among the followers of Christ. And it sounded very kind of like lofty and stuff, but the idea was, you know, taking this idea that we are committed to leadership and crafting and developing leaders, but we are also following. We're not just trying to do our own thing. So, so that, that's something that I thought about from back then. Now, just a little bit about me and how right now I function as a leader in various capacities. So professionally, I'm a musical director at Fourth Baptist Church. Been a little over a year now. Believe it or not, I've been serving as a musical director in one way or another since I was about 9. There's a story about that I'm going to share in a little bit. I'm a band leader for Jazz in the Spirit. Obviously, That's my own group that performs the repertoire, the jazz and the spirit repertoire. A lot of the songs that you all hear on Friday nights, and you've heard for some of you have been with me for years. You've been hearing these songs, and as I come up with them, you all hear them. I'm the owner, principal of RD3 Music, which is my combination publishing, production, and performance company that sort of does all the bookings for me and that sort of thing. I am a member of Soul Expressions Band. That's a wedding band, an event band that is here in the Richmond area. Now, I'm not the leader of the band, and I'm not the founder of the band, but the scripture says your gifts will make room for you and bring you before great men. Now, that's not exclusive to men; it's people, but that's just how they were writing back then. But what's happened is, because I've been a musical director for so long, that gift has, I guess, made room for me within the band. I've been in there for about 14 years now. But so I pretty much function as a musical director within that group, and kind of like vocal arranger and that sort of thing. I'm also a workshop presenter. I, taught and performed songs for choirs and gospel music workshop and different places. I'm an independent artist, as you can see, and I'm actively promoting all the time. So that's another form of leadership. And I'm also a private instructor. Dr. Ruby, you talked about Brother Pete, and you, for that matter, and other students I've had over the years. So all those are ways in which I lead. On a personal level, I'm a husband for a little over 27 years. Oh my gosh. I'm a father. My son just had a birthday last Tuesday. It was awesome. And he's 20 years old. I'm a mentor to many people in various ways. And I guess I'm kind of a spiritual leader, not in the official sense, but again, they're just, that's something that people just look to me for in many ways, just from just being who I am, who the Lord made me to be. So as we talk about becoming a leader, what does that look like? How do you become someone that other people want to follow? And as I was thinking about this, I came up with some things. Some of it has to do with your charisma. Some people, they just talk and you just want to listen to them like, ooh, wow, I think they just said something, Sometimes it's confidence. It's like, people like to go with a winner, It's just like when you speak, folks are just like, oh yeah, he sounds like he knows what he's doing, he's just, and even if you don't, if you just sound like you do, people want to follow you. Another one is your style. Sometimes people have a way of saying things, like I talked about Dr. Taylor, and the special way he had of saying things, and it just was very memorable, and sometimes it's success. You can say, oh, I've got 2 million followers on social media, or I got a hit record that just came out, or I ran for political office, or I'm a pastor or something, and just whatever the success looks like. There are, people like to gravitate towards success. Sometimes it's wealth. People want to know, who's the richest man in the world, who's the richest woman in the world, who are the top 5 people, who's on the Forbes list, who's got the most money to give away, who's in the headlines all the time, who hit the lottery for the largest amount, whatever. This last one is a little controversial, but anybody who's been a leader knows that it's true. Sex appeal. Yeah, I said it. but it's true, you know. And it's not lost on me. You know what I mean? I play the saxophone, so over the years, people are just like, oh, I love the saxophone, and it's just so, and they'll come up to me and different things, or just like, oh, I love your voice, just whatever. And y'all know what I'm talking about. So, for whatever the reason, people, Dr. Ruby, you're funny. So people have, have different reasons for following, but whatever those reasons are, it's good. It's good to give them some thought. Dr. Moshe, good morning. How are you doing? It's another great friend of mine, Dr. Moshe Lewis. He's got some great stuff going on. I'm talking about music and medicine and the nexus of the two. And let's see here. Thank you so much. And Dr. Ruby said, she still plays the bass and the piano. All right. And she said, thank you. Your teaching enabled me to teach the band who still blesses us on Zoom during the pandemic. Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Ruby. That means a lot. It really means a lot. I appreciate it. And Moshe said, we love you, Richard. That's why we follow. Thank you, dude. I really appreciate y'all. I didn't even tell him to say that, but thank you guys so much. But you know what? Of all of these reasons that people follow, I think the most important reason is Jesus' reason, which is, Jesus said that the first, whoever wants to be first, should be last, and that's that is a revolutionary concept, especially, in this Western society that promotes competition. That's like, I want to be first. I got to be in the front, and, I'm not going to lie to you. There's this picture. I might get in trouble for saying it, but it's all right. Our now former president was trying to, he was taking a picture with a bunch of world leaders, and he kind of like elbowed his way to the front, and he was just like, literally like move somebody else out of the way so he could stand in the front. And, I feel like that's part of the problem with that mindset. In America, we do that so often. We want to push people out of the way. We got to take their stuff. But that's exactly the opposite of what Jesus said. He's like, if you want to be first, if you want to be great, you got to be willing to serve, and it's hard, y'all. It's not an easy thing to do. But here's a little scripture that will probably help, because I don't want y'all to think I made this up. In the Gospel of Matthew, these are Jesus' own words. He's getting on the church folks, the church leaders. They call them the Pharisees. He's getting on their case for being hypocrites. And in Matthew 23, verse 10, he says, do not be called leaders, for only one is your leader, that is Christ. But the greatest of you, this is verse 11, but the greatest of you shall be your servant. And then verse 12 says, whoever exalts himself shall be humbled, and whoever humbles himself shall be exalted. So there you have it. I mean, that is the essence of what leadership is all about. And when you think about it, think about the people, not the people that, are just like, put in front of us as stars or leaders, but the people that you actually desire to follow. There's usually a reason, and that reason has to do with you. It's a great example. There are a lot of pastors that have what they call foot washing services during the Holy Week leading up to Easter. And what they do is they kind of take Jesus' example, because he, very famously, got down on his knees and was washing the super dirty feet of his disciples. And, and I'm like, why in the world are you doing that? And they're like, he was teaching them that, I am your leader, but this is what I want you all to do for others. Don't just serve yourself or wait to be served, but go and serve. And, that's a revolutionary concept, but that's really what makes the greatest leaders. And when you think about it, sometimes the things that you most admire about folks are that you feel like they care about you, like they have your best interest at heart. And so, that's, if there's anything that I, want to say as a leader that I've learned and that I try to emulate, it's the idea of serving. And that's why when I talk about, my vision for Jazz in the Spirit and all that stuff, it's always about love and giving, doing something for someone else, making a difference. And that's the reason why I started that email address, people who make a difference at jazzinthespirit.com, which I hope you all will use, because that's a way I want to use to keep in touch with people, directly. So it's not always just based on social media. So definitely send me your messages at people who make a difference at jazzinthespirit.com. And I hope to hear from you. So one of my wife is actually an ordained minister, Reverend Makiba DeBrew, and she went through the whole process of going to seminary and getting licensed and going before a big council and all this kind of stuff. Dr. Ruby, you know what I'm talking about. One of her mentors in ministry was Reverend Sharon Williams, who is a longtime pastor of Baptist Church of the Redeemer in Brooklyn, New York. And one of the things that she told my wife as, a pastor and leading her, is something, she's always repeated to me too. So that's why I remember it. She said, people want to know, one, that you love God, that you love what you're doing, and that you love them. So those were her words of wisdom about how to become a leader, in this case, a spiritual leader. But, it has applications far beyond that. And so I take that with me as well. And, if you all follow me, and I'm talking about, all the folks who might be watching, new friends on Instagram, YouTube, and so on, I hope you don't just do it to ride my coattails and try to steal my ideas or benefit from what I'm saying without actually believing in it. I'm going to just be honest. I hope that you don't do that. The folks that I know are making comments now, I know that's not you all, but a lot of people watch these things, and I can only hope that that's not your motive. If it is, listen, that's on you. But really, if you follow me, and I do want you to follow me. I appreciate you following me, but follow me as I follow Christ. Okay. That comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 11. It just says, this is a New American Standard Version. It says, be imitators of me, just as I also am of Christ. In other words, as I am an imitator of Christ. So, and then there's another one that says, this is from the book of Galatians, chapter 2, verse 20. It says, I have been crucified with Christ, and it's no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself up for me. Again, service, and whether, listen, I know that everyone who who watches my videos may not necessarily be that quote unquote religious or spiritual, or, you may have a different faith tradition or whatever. But listen, service is for everyone. Um, and, being able to do something for someone else is the key to being a leader. I'm going to say that again. Being able to do something for someone else is the key to being a leader. You can call yourself a leader all you want, but if you're walking, this is another expression I've heard, if you're walking and nobody's following, all you're doing is taking a walk. So, but if, we follow a greater example, then that's really worth following, in my opinion. And you know what's crazy? At the times that I have achieved what I consider some of my greatest successes, many or most of those have happened when I was following Christ. Let me give you an example. I told you about the video from Hampton Conference 2013. The crazy thing was, I was going every year, and they have these things called the Wendell Whalum Recital Series, where soloists, get to kind of do their songs before a huge congregation, thousands of people at the Hampton Ministers Conference every year. So this particular year, I had really intended to do some of my jazz in the spirit music because I wanted to let people know about that. In fact, I brought an accompaniment track. I think I was going to do Look and Live, but the idea got vetoed. They're just like, no, we're not having people do stuff to tracks. They got to use an accompanist. I'm like, for real? And I was upset. I was like, I worked really hard on this. I prepared, and I had an agenda in mind. I wanted to put this stuff forward in front of all these thousands of people, and I wanted to let them know about it and hopefully, buy some of my albums or whatever, But that wasn't the plan. So I had to take that idea and throw it in the trash, And so they were like, okay, so what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. I was kind of a little swole by that time. I was like, whatever. But I said, well, let's just do a hymn. Let's do Because He Lives. And it was literally that with no thought at all. But when I started doing it, I was kind of playing it real straight at first. And then one of the people who was in charge, she said, well, Mr. DeBrew, because, they're very formal, Mr. DeBrew, I know that you're a jazz musician, so why don't you put some of your jazz inflections in there? And I was like, all right. So I started to, quote unquote, jazz it up a little bit. And the people that were in there, they were all auditioning. They were really getting into it. I was like, okay, it's just a good old hymn. But so I got the call later on, because what happens is, you audition, and if your audition is successful, then you get to do your song that night at the big conference. And so I went there. The crazy thing is, I normally would sit there and spend time practicing my room, going over my scales, working on a whole bunch of stuff to make sure my sound is right and everything. That particular day, and this is an exception because I've been doing it, before that, I've done it since. I wasn't doing that. I actually was sitting there reading the scriptures, and I was just in prayer. And I was like, Lord, I don't know what's going to happen tonight, but you get the glory, and I meant it. I wasn't trying to, there was nobody else there but me, so it's not like I had to try to impress anybody in that room. But oh man, can I tell you, that night, wow. I mean, if you see the video, there was just something going on in that room. And I had a ball up there. and it was probably the least arranged arrangement that I had ever done in that venue. So, that's not to say that we shouldn't prepare when we go in ministry. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. We absolutely should. But the thing is, sometimes if the preparation becomes a distraction for the audience of one, which is the Lord, then that we got our priorities shifted. So I went there, and oh my goodness, y'all can see the video. People had their hands in the air. They were just praising and worshiping, and so was I. You know, but the whole thing was, I had to just give it to God and listen. Not only that, later on that same night, they have this thing like the late night shed, where all the musicians just gather, and usually they have somebody who's well known who comes and speaks. That night, Donald Lawrence, the national gospel artist and wonderful songwriter, was the guest for the shed. And he was talking to people and, kind of sharing words of wisdom or whatever. I got to meet him personally and talk to him. I took a picture with him and stuff, and he gave me all kinds of little pointers about pitching songs to people, which, I'm a songwriter, so I wanted to know, like, how do you get songs, in the hands of, national artists and stuff. And he was like, okay, here's what you do. Boom, 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 boom. And he just made a list. I was like, writing like crazy. And the next day at that same shed, Edwin Hawkins, the writer, the writer of Oh Happy Day, was the guest. And, people were asking him all kinds of questions, but I wanted to know, okay, so how did you do that? And he was just like, I'll be honest with you, I didn't do it. God did it. And this is Edwin Hawkins, the quote unquote father of contemporary gospel music. So if he said it, as successful as he has been, then I know there must be something to it. So it's hard, y'all. I'm not going to lie. This is not an easy thing. And it's much easier to follow, just the prevailing wisdom of the day, but this is just what I've learned. So it's, it means being totally sold out and totally selfless, to really have a heart for other people and not a heart for self-aggrandizement. And I'm saying this as a person who's literally, with a sign behind me and all this stuff, actively promoting an album. And I'm saying this, so it's backwards, y'all. I'm not going to lie. It feels backwards to me. But that is the truth that I've learned. What's crazy is, as I was growing up, I was always the youngest in the house. I have an older sister and, of course, my parents. So I was always following somebody, Then later, when I got skipped over, from third grade over to fifth grade, I was always younger than everybody by like almost 2 years. So, I started high school at 12. I started college at 16. Oh, God. It was crazy. But the strange thing is that I was always seeing things differently than everybody else, and I didn't really understand why, but I always felt like just weird, but, here's an example. When I was talking about before, I've been doing musical directing since I was about 9 years old. That was my first time. So here's what happened. I was in our living room at the house in Brooklyn, and I had my dad playing a glockenspiel. That's a little small xylophone. I had my sister playing the piano. I had my mom playing something. I can't remember now what it was. Maybe steel pan or something like that. I had my sister's best friend, who was my other sister, Lisa, I had her playing the bongos, and then I had a guitar, a harmonica, and I think I was singing. Um, and the thing is, I had actually given everybody stuff to play. So I put little pieces of tape on the piano that were like color coded, and I had a little chart so my sister could follow like which things to play. All the color coded things, you play those at the same time, and then you switch to the other color. And I did the same thing for my dad with the the notes to play on the glockenspiel. And I gave everybody something to do, and the thing was getting them to do it together and trying to make it sound. I wish I had a video from that. Oh my gosh. But I didn't know that that was a precursor of what was to come. At that time, I was just, being fun. But here I was I was doing something for everybody else. And like I said, I was the youngest. So any of them could have told me, man, leave me alone. I'm not doing that. Just I got something to do, or I want to, yeah. Yeah, that's my dad on there. He's remembering too. And I got to tell you, it was one of my favorite memories from back then. And I was so excited because everybody was like listening to me. Everybody was following me, the youngest. I was like, hey, you know. But here's the thing, when we lead, it's important that we be prepared. So you don't just come into leadership with no kind of preparation. And so, hey, Brother Milton Marriott, how are you doing, sir? Good to see you. Check out my resume. It's mixed in with stories, of course. My 9-year-old resume. Okay, so my mom told me that when I was really little, and I don't even remember this, but she tells me this is what I used to do. When I was like 3 or something like that, I used to take little coat hangers and tie rubber bands around them and strum them and sing. And I don't know what it sounded like, but at 3 years old, that's what I was doing, So that gave my parents the idea to have me get guitar lessons, which I started around 4 at the Little Theater in Brooklyn, New York. And I had a guitar teacher. I don't remember her name, but I remember I had a crush on her. And because I thought she was so pretty. I would say, oh, gosh. I was like, we ready to go to lessons, Dad? And she used to give me a lollipop at the end of the lesson if I did well. So, it was all good. And then when I was 6, I started writing songs. And I still actually remember my very first song. It was a song called Scale Song in F. And I don't know if I called it that then, but it was just a little song. I'll play it at some point for y'all. But then I still have a piece of paper from when I was really young, and it said, this is a song called Zekano, Zekno. I don't remember at all what the song sounds like, but I still have the piece of paper. And it's like, this is a song called Zekano that I wrote by myself. So I was this real self-aware kid, even at 6 years old. And, my dad had showed me, how to play some things on the piano, and, I came along right at the time, just before he was about to stop completely. But I used to give him a hard time. I was like, Dad, could you show me? And I would bug him until he'd show me something else. And that was kind of how, I learned the beginnings of songs like Moonlight Sonata and this other song called The Campbells Are Coming and some other songs. And then I used to listen to, I used to watch a lot of TV. The TV themes, like cartoons and things like that. And I would learn how the themes would go, and I would play them to some of my friends, because I was younger than everybody. So I was trying to figure out a way to fit in and to be, at least a little bit popular. Then I used to also what was the last thing? Oh, sorry, I lost my place. I was also, kind of as the time shifted and I switched to my other guitar teacher, it was more advanced, but of course, he was a guy and, it just wasn't the same thing. So I learned a lot from him. But what was happening is he was trying to get me into the classical way of playing, which classical guitar is very difficult. If you ever listen to it, it sounds awesome, and your technique goes through the roof, but it just takes a lot of time to get good. And I knew I wanted to play, I wanted to solo, I wanted to do fun stuff. I was a little dude, so I didn't know. But so all this stuff was going on, and those were the things that had already happened by the time I was 9 years old. Okay, and check this out. There's even more. um, from my guitar playing, I have this memory of when I was I think I was in the sixth grade, which would have made me 9 because I was 8 in the fifth grade and 9 in the sixth grade. Um, I played this song called "Michael Row Your Boat Ashore." Michael row the boat ashore, hallelujah, and I got gonged, y'all. Y'all remember? Well, I'm dating myself, but there was this very popular show in the '70s called The Gong Show, and you got it. If you messed up or if you acted crazy or you did something, they had this huge gong, and it would just be, boom, and that meant you're done. Just get off the stage. So we had this talent show at my school, Concord Elementary School. And, I thought I had some talent. So I was going up there, trying to play my little song. Do you know those jokers gonged me? And I had to carry my guitar to school and all that. What's going on? I tell you about. I was hurt, man. That hurt my feelings. At the same time, there was another one of my classmates, Yolanda Wins, who she's a phenomenal singer. I mean, she was a star even back then. And, since then she's been on Broadway. She's the now current director of the Harlem School of the Arts. And she was a star back then. So they cheered for her, but they gonged me. Fortunately, for my pride's sake, I had a teacher, Miss Williams, who she was upset because, when I brought my guitar to school, she was like, how dare you? She gave him a Caribbean tongue lashing when we got back upstairs into the classroom. And she literally made the whole class sit and listen to me play the whole song. Play it again. So, thank you, dude. Um, and although I know they were probably like sitting there with that look on their face and their arms crossed, elementary school kids can be very cruel, but, it empowered me. It made me feel like, okay, I can do something. So it was, gave me some toughness. So all of these things went into my preparation for leadership within my family, as a musical director. And so even at that age, things don't happen by accident. And so, I remember that I was the only person in my family who took an interest in that old glockenspiel that was in my grandmother's house. And, it was all beat up looking, with this old case and the keys were falling, and, so it could have gotten thrown out very easily. And it was heavy because all the keys were metal and it was a wooden case, but I took an interest in it. So we took it back to the house and I sat there and I learned how to play it. And wouldn't you know that, here we go again, Daddy, there was a group called the Modern Jazz Quartet, fronted by a vibraphonist named, very, very famous, they nicknamed him Bags, but Milt Hinton, sorry, that's the bass player, Milt Jackson, a wonderful vibraphone player, and they did a song called Precious Joy. The whole album was based on Bach. And this was the, Jesu joy of man's desiring. But the, and so I was listening to that. And one of my earliest, kind of exposures was, to mallet instruments, was listening to him play this beautiful melody on the vibraphone. So I was like, well, I couldn't play it like he did, but I was trying to emulate in my little way. So can you imagine all of that stuff was going on at 9 years old? So all that is to say that I didn't, it wasn't by accident that I just was doing this. All of this stuff had been happening in my life, and continued from there. It took years, and I mean years, to accept that God was giving me visions and dreams about how things could be. And honestly, some of our most influential and impactful leaders have been visionaries. I often talk about Dr. Martin Luther King, because his birthday's in January, just 5 days before mine, so I get it. But in order to get to the place where people would follow them, they had to accept themselves. And I'll be honest, y'all, it's a struggle sometimes. I do feel like I have a lot to offer. I had a great education. I played multiple instruments. I do have skills in writing and arranging. I have a large catalog of songs. I feel like I'm kind of an expert on gospel jazz. I have a heart for doing good for people. I'm a good listener, and I can recognize and appreciate other people's gifts. I don't really feel like I'm a hater. I don't need to put other people's stuff down to be able to raise myself up. And so in those senses, I feel like I do have the qualities of being a great leader. But honestly, sometimes just being transparent, like many leaders, I struggle, with self-doubt and being misunderstood, or trying hard to get people to see what I see, or taking time to follow up with one idea, and make sure that goes to fruition before I jump on to the next one, because I always get idea after idea after idea, but what has really helped me, and this is the other reason why it's good to be able to serve other people and to recognize other people's gifts, is that there have been people in my life for the whole time who have helped to undergird these visions that I've had and help me stay accountable to them. Like, okay, didn't you say you were going to do such and such and such? My publicist, who's the one that helped me to get into the Bell Report those times and lots of other stuff, she asked me about, okay, so when are you going to have this? What is the date that this album is going to be ready? Because I need to reach out to these folks. And she wasn't trying to be funny. She was just trying to be factual. So when are you going to do it? But do you know that was like one of the most important things that pushed me to actually finish this? Because like I said, I've been working on it for 21 years, but being accountable was the key. And I shared my vision statement maybe about 2 months ago or something like that. It was my wife, Makiba, who challenged me to pray for a vision from the Lord. And when I started writing, it was like, it came out like crazy. One of my former musical directors and mentors, Mr. Phil Bingham in Concord Baptist Church, he used to talk about learning to staff your weakness, meaning whatever it is that you're not good at, you find somebody else that is. And in so doing, there will be, all of those bases will be covered. Now, in the business world, they probably have lots of other words for that, but I just remember his, and that's what I've done. And then, especially, at my last church at Second Baptist, we had a leadership team, and everybody was, good at something different, But the team worked really, really well, and we used to get a lot of stuff done. And I used to look forward to meeting with them and, saying, hey, listen, guys, this is what I'm thinking. And let them kind of, use their gifts to push stuff back. And some stuff I came up with, it was just like, no, I mean, we really, I hear you, but we just can't do that. And this is why. And I had to say, okay, I hear you, and be good with it. Being a leader doesn't mean you're always going to get your way. Sometimes you have to say, all right, well, in light of all of these reasons, this is probably not a good idea to do this right now, or we can't quite do it this way. So let's do something else. And you have to be willing to take other people's ideas, and not just because you want to make it seem like you thought of it. No, give them the credit for the idea. Say, Sister so-and-so thought of this, and I really feel like this is great. This will be great for us. Because then you lift them up. You do something for someone else. And then how does that make them feel? That makes them feel great. And they're like, well, yeah, I want to follow him because he gave me a shout out. You know what I mean? Or just, I feel like he has my best interest at heart. I feel like he cares about me. And that's what makes people want to genuinely follow you. Not just in lip service, but really go above and beyond and do extra stuff that might help you even when you don't realize it. So again, service, doing stuff for other people. I've often wondered whether, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, 200 years from now, whether people will discover these things that I'm talking about and find some value in them. I hope so. Usually the stuff that gets most remembered is the stuff that's really impactful, the stuff that, affected a lot of people and was like, all over the news, or, millions of people or thousands of people, came to this, to this realization or followed this particular leader, But the thing about it is there's other cases where there are things that are little nuggets that get discovered way after the person is gone. And I don't know whether, I was made to stand in the forefront like some of these great people or not. I don't know. It still remains to be seen. I've done some of it, of course. But, other times I'm like real happy to stay in the background. But in the cases of those folks whose impact is not realized until long after they're gone, think about somebody like, people always talk about these Nostradamus prophecies now and stuff. I mean, not that I want to be like Nostradamus, but, he was talking about this stuff a long time ago. And probably at the time, people were just like, this dude is crazy. But now they're like, what did he say? What did he say? So I don't know. Sometimes I feel like maybe that might be me too, just people don't really understand or appreciate what I'm doing until then. I don't know. That remains to be seen. I'm 51 now. Average life expectancy, is between about 70 and 80, and that's even according to scripture, So, and you take into account the black man in America status, and then, that makes it even shorter. But while I'm here, what I am committed to doing is making a difference. And I say it all the time, but I really mean it. I want to help make the lives of other people better through my music, but also through my life. And, want my character to mean something. And, I've checked recently, and I think I have 1,025 likes on Facebook and about 1095 in terms of followers. I got about, 1,800 something friends on my personal page, and 487 followers on Instagram, and 56 on Twitter, and about 100 something on YouTube. And if I'm honest, a lot of times it does not feel like that many people are genuinely interested in what I'm doing. They might have just hit the like button just to be nice or something. I don't know. It winds up feeling like maybe between 5 and 10 people are watching what I'm doing and paying attention. And others just watch later. But listen, y'all, if you want to follow me, I welcome you. I really do. And if you're watching later and you want to follow me, I welcome you. I want you to become a person that makes a difference. Like I said before, I have this email address, people who make a difference @jazzandthespirit.com. And I hope that you all will become a part of that and join, what I call the movement of Jazz and the Spirit. But most importantly, as it says in that passage of Scripture, I want you to follow me as I follow Christ. So that's really the essence of the matter. So, I thank you guys so much for taking some time out of your Saturday to hang with me and share some of your thoughts. And like I said, tomorrow I'm going to be a special guest at Sacred Heart Catholic Church for Black History Month, and I'm going to be doing By and By again. And next month I'm going to be, because it's a new month, I'm going to be highlighting a different song. My song, La Pureza del Amor de Cristo, which means Christ's love so pure. I'll say more about it on Tuesday, but, there is, the music is definitely influenced by, Puerto Rico, Cuba, that kind of stuff. And so there are special events that happen in Puerto Rico and Cuba during the month of March that I want to call attention to. And as we're doing that song, maybe learn a couple of words in Spanish, that sort of thing. But so I hope that you all will continue to join me. But these have been my thoughts about being a leader and becoming a leader. I hope you all have enjoyed the stories and the reflections, and I hope that you will give some thought in your own way about what it means to be a leader and how to truly serve people, because I really believe that's the key to being a good leader, not just somebody who stands in front and tries to boss people around, but someone who actually has people at heart who willingly want to follow you and tell others about you. Like, come on, So, this is Alexo. Somebody on Twitch is just saying hello. Hi there. Thank you. So, folks, thank you guys for joining. It's been great hanging with you. And I'm going to be back on Tuesday for my Tuesday talk. We'll be introducing the song and tell about some of the other stuff that's going on. Of course, I got my stuff tomorrow at Sacred Heart and then Fourth Baptist. Feel free to join us on YouTube or Zoom, check it out, Fourth Baptist Church in Richmond, Virginia. And certainly you visit all my, websites. If you'd like to contribute to what we're doing here, I welcome that too. Because it costs to lead in more ways than one. So I appreciate y'all's support, and your affirming and encouraging words mean a great deal to me. So, and many of you are leaders as well, and I want to encourage you to go forth and be encouraged, as it's not always easy to lead, but again, follow Christ, and that's the greatest example that you could ever find. And you'd be amazed at how many people will start following you if you follow those same principles. So thank you guys again, and we'll talk to you soon. All right. This has been my February 27th episode of Saturday Sentiments. Y'all have a great Saturday. Take care.